Hi guys, Do here with a new video, and this video is not about my outlaw rogue, it's not about my frost decay, it is not about my mains in general, it is about 2v2 and its deplorable state right now. Big spoiler, I think 2v2 is a bracket that I actually always loved to play, especially since I have friends to play with in twos, especially. And I do find it like one of the best ways to learn how to PvP and to learn your spec or your class. If you're learning a spec or a class, generally speaking, if you want to know how to play arena with, you could step into 2v2 and generally speaking learn how to CC, because that is based on how you're going to win your matches. Learn how to play defensively, because your healer might go so he has to go drink, for example. Based on how to deal maximum damage, because obviously damage is king. So all of this, with the usages of CC, the usages of your DRs, the usages of everything combined, makes it a very good bracket to learn how to PvP in general. Like if someone is new to PvP, I said multiple times, like it is no secret. Like if you're new to PvP and you know nothing about PvP, I would say always to play random mages a lot, to see the different classes, but it's very chaotic, so you're not going to see everything that you need to be seeing. But secondly, for sure, healing in 2v2 and DPSing in 2v2. So if you are learning how to survive, learning how to heal, learning how to DPS, learning how to CC, that is the most efficient way to do so. It's not by jumping in soul shuffle where you're going to be chaotically destroyed, because obviously one mistake can lead your team to be destroyed as a healer, but also as a DPS. Like one mistake, like for example lining the healer whatever you should not line the healer, kinda also makes you lose the games. And in 3v3, coordination is king. Obviously if you're like pugging, coordination is going to be very sucky for sure, but also in general you're not going to face those like double DPS comps like in twos. You're not going to have triple DPS comps. Sometimes it happens, but it's like not happening often enough to have like a winning sensation, because you're going to lose a lot of those games. Like in general, like a real 3v3 like bracket, you are most likely going to face other people that wants to also grind and get rankings and trying to like rank up. I think in general 2v3 is very chaotic for someone that is very new to play like PvP, and to learn a spec and to learn to face different specs, it is still like a bit wish-washy, right? But at the end, once you have learned your spec, you learned your class, you learned how to face different classes, how to face a windwalker, how to face an affliction warlock, how to face a subtlety rogue, how to face an assassination rogue. Like every single spec has its like purpose, win conditions, and in general survivability and damage profiles. Like an assassination rogue doesn't do the damage that a outlaw rogue is doing. And an enhancement shaman doesn't have the same profile as an arms warrior, for example. So that is the positives of 2v2. 2v2 gives you more space and more time to learn, and I would say it's also more of a checkers game, where chess is, for example, 3v3, checkers would be 2v2. And I do feel like you don't need too much to become very good at 2v2, but what you need is actually the meta. I think 2v2 is like one of the most meta slavery brackets in the game. Like literally, if you are not playing a meta comp, like a comp with good CC, with not too many overlapping DRs, with like it needs to have damage, it needs to have healing, and often it needs to have both. It needs to have the CC, the DRs, the CDs, the ultimate like the sacrifices to perform very well in 2v2. That's why you are going to have rarely a preservation invoker with retribution paladin, for example, together in twos, like in a very high rated comp. That's not going to work. Or a enhancement shaman with a, I don't know, resto druid, for example. That's terrible comp. At least that's how I feel whenever I'm playing that. You're not going to see, like, for example, like a holy priest with a arms warrior right now, because it just doesn't work, right? At least not that high rated. You need to have like coherence and a good meta healer. And the thing that makes me really boil my blood is that currently the main spec that is like literally everywhere and is literally stomping on the ladder by itself and making it miserable for a lot of people except the healers that are playing this, and it is Disc Priest. I think Disc Priest has sucked every single joy I had for 2v2, and I understand that some healers do like to be able to do similar, because it's really similar damage than a DPS. Literally 75% of the DPS of a normal DPS, not from like a cleavy DPS, but like a normal DPS. 75% of that damage can be done by the Disc Priest because you have that much more liberty, and since the damage is not as spiky as in threes, you have more time to play with full atonement healing and full like active, proactive damage, and that damage is really, really high, and that kind of really makes you like have to play with a Disc Priest. You have to play mirror matches to be able to win games. Like a feral druid with a Disc Priest is insane. Like it does so much damage. A Disc Priest with an affliction warlock, even a Disc Priest with a rogue, a Disc Priest with even a frost mage, a Disc Priest with a fury warrior, with a DH. Actually, Disc Priest with any other spec makes it very annoying to play against. Like you have only one kick, generally speaking, except if you're playing like with a healer that has a range kick, for example, resto shamans, or a mistweaver that has a interrupts, obviously, or you're playing double DPS or whatever. You only have one kick, realistically. Let's say if you're playing Disc Priest versus Disc Priest, you only have one kick because you have your own kick, you have your own CC. You don't have enough CC to stop those two together like at all times. So you will always see a danger at one point in the game. Like not at one point, like every single point. Like you can CC the main target however you want. And I'm not talking like auto rogue. Like again, rogues can CC multiple targets multiple times. That's good. That's very good. But again, any other spec has a lot of difficulties with that, and Disc Priest kind of annihilates any like active, proactive damage dealing comps, because they need to play defensively because you're going to get got like multiple times, or you have to literally train the priest to the ground every single lobby to be able to win those matchups, right? So I have some suggestions to make, but I want to give you a bit of like data before we start. I'm not going to make like a very long video. Hopefully, I always say that, but I'm not going to make a long video. But I'm going to show you some stats, right? I think the stats are very important to understand, so you can actually like see, okay, yeah, there's something is wrong, right? Let me see. So 2v2 in the top 1000, which is not that big. I could do also top 500 to be fair, but I'm going to do top 1000 and EU or NA. I'm gonna give you a bit of representation, a bit of a discussion, a bit of interesting insights towards what I'm saying, because you would say, but how come Disc Priest is that good? How come do you only see Disc Priest these days? Well, I'm going to show you right away. So we have we have Dressfar, which is my favorite my favorite World of Warcraft website for statistics. So again, check it out. I'm not sponsored, but it is really, really good. We have representation 2v2, last active, also it means since the beginning of the season. Top 1000 specs. You could also go for top 100 if you want to, but that only will enforce what I'm saying. And I'm going to go for EU, which in general 2v2 in EU is a bit more active. And currently you have, what a surprise, 212 disc priests, which is all the healers combined. So if you're counting, again, my maths, they are not as well as in the good old days, but you have 62, 48, it is 110, you have 164, you have 164, 26, my maths are like 82, 84, 82, excuse me, 92, 82, 92. Anyways, 92. And then you have Holy Priest and Mistweaver. So you are very close of actually having double. It is not the double, excuse me. It is a bit less than double, but it is still overwhelming amounts of disc priests. So if you are, like, again, I'm stupid, I could also just read this, obviously, but it's 48% of the healers are disc priest, which is insane. So it means that 1 out of 2 games that you're playing in 2v2 are versus disc priests, if you're not counting your own disc priest, if you're bringing your own disc priest to the party, obviously, which is something you're going to do anyways. If I'm going to do the last 7 days active, it's 114 disc priests, a bit more holy paladins, a bit more resto druids. But if I go for the top 100, obviously you will see way more disc priests, and you also see in the top 500 also way more disc priests. So in general, it's a very active spec. And you're going to say, but why are you mad that disc priest is the most played spec? Because feral druids are also the most played spec. That's true. There is also an argument for them. Obviously, they are also a problem, but disc priest has been insane. I think a healer being capable to do similar damage as a DPS is not great for 2v2. Again, I understand that it is like balanced around 3s and atonement, and it's all cool and well, but I think that if disc priest is doing that kind of damage, I think all healers should go for all that kind of damage. I'm something like, give everyone the same amount of like pressure, or give no one that pressure. I know it's like a probably not really a popular opinion, but I think disc priest kind of breaks the whole ladder. You cannot play any of the off specs. If you're playing arms, if you're playing frost decay, if you're playing red, you're going to get out DPS, like purely out DPS by a disc priest comp. Any disc priest comp, even a sub rogue disc priest, which generally speaking, sub rogue is not going to out DPS anyone, but with the disc priest, you're going to out DPS the arms warrior. And you have to play, like, you cannot play a off DPS comp, but also you cannot play a off healing deep like spec. So if you're playing, let's say, resto shaman, so my friend is playing resto shaman, for example, and I like to play with him, but in twos it's miserable. He has no damage. They took out stormkeepers. Lava burst is not dealing as much damage proportionally as Dragonflight, and right now the pressure is too high from a disc priest that you cannot actually actively cast a lava burst. That is just not an option. You do not have stormkeepers, you do not have damage pressure enough to be saying, look, I'm doing the DPS right now. That's not the case. Resto Druid has some damage, but again, if you're going cat form, you're not doing anything healing wise. Preservation Evoker has damage, and that is respectable damage, but it is not on the same level as a Disc Priest, and they have less interesting CDs compared to a priest. For example, PS is still the best CD in the game. IMO healing wise, healer wise, towards your allies. It is like literally, look, you're going to take low damage for that amount of time, and you have 2 charges, and you can reduce it with shields, if I'm not mistaken. Then you have Ultimate Penitence, which is probably the best CD in the game, 2v2 period. Being able to go into the sky, unCCable, unkillable pretty much, and do a amount of damage that is literally just unhealable if you're like in the line of sight. Obviously you can kite it, but the guys are not dumb enough to like make you kite the ultimate penitence. You're going to sit the ultimate penitence because you're going to be CC'd while it happens, for example. Holy Paladin has no damage or has little to no damage, and if it does damage, it sacrifices a lot. Holy Priest is just not played. I think it has damage, but it is like not an atonement healing kind of damage and healing. So obviously you're not going to see a lot of Holy Priest in use, although they have great CC. That is just not enough currently. The damage is too high for any other healers to actually exist in that current meta. So my suggestions, again, unpopular opinion, I would say if I have to choose it right now and I am the dev and I have like really all powers to me, snap my fingers, it changes. I would want every single healer to have like a atonement healing kind of style of play. I know that people are going to be crying about it and they're not going to like about it, but that's the best way forward if you want to have healers doing damage without like feeling like they're going to get behind because of it. This priest can do damage because it heals with damage, but like all the other healers has like a mechanic to heal while doing damage, but it is like 1/10 of the atonement healing. It just is just not productive, and it's way too hard to make it work. So I would suggest that. The second suggestion, which I don't like, because I don't want to gimp healers to be like literally heal bots. Gimp the DPS of the disc priest to make it like useless and have like no healers do damage. I personally don't like that solution, but I'm very drastic. I want like either everyone to be able to do that kind of damage, like 75% of the DPS damage if you're like free. For example, Holy Paladin should be able to do that kind of damage as well, Resto Druid as well, Preservation Evoker as well, Resto Shaman as well, Holy Priest and mistweavers as well. And that would make it way more balanced, but also way harder to balance in general. So obviously, the best solution would be to remove the amount of damage you're doing as a disc priest, or like counteract. For example, if you want to atonement healing to still be a thing, you have to nerf the damage from your spells, but buff the atonement from it. So you could have the same amount of atonement, but the damage is lower, so you could survive a bit more versus like a disc priest. So that is like those are my solutions. Either give everyone the same tools, not atonement per se, but it could be like having damage on lava burst. Like if you're doing lava burst, it heals the ally. For example, the ally the ally that is mostly in need. For example, a paladin should maybe make a judgment and being able to heal way more than what they do with like a veteran crusader, for example. Resto druid should be able to go cut form, and whenever you're going to deal damage, it's going to also bring that damage towards your allies. There is some similar like that right now, but the issue is that it is like underpowered, so nobody is using it. I think Preservation Evoker should have that as well, although I think they have enough damage. That is not the issue. I think the issue is you have to choose between dealing damage and healing, and that's why it's not as successful as Disc Priest. Holy Priest should be the same. You should be able to throw Holy Fires, and that Holy Fire heals you or heals your allies by a very good amount. And Mistweaver has Fist Weaving, which is cool. And soon there will be like some caster weaving aggressiveness. I think that is probably the hardest spec to balance in general. But I think right now there is a disc priest problem in twos at least. I know it's very hard to balance because it's all there is also threes, there is also solo QRPGs, um, and soul shuffle. But obviously, there is a huge issue, right? Like these numbers are not correct. It's too high. It's too high, and the damage is too high. It just makes the bracket very annoying. Like you see, literally all the meta specs are played, and then you have like a huge gap between, excuse me, between the top DPSers and the lowest DPSers in the game. I think right now, I think this priest kind of annihilates any chances to play off meta. Playing outlaw Rework, for example, you're not going to out DPS a disc priest comp no matter what. That is not going to happen. Exceptionally, it can happen um, if the disc priest is just like very bad. That can happen, or like AFK. But in normal situations, they know that they can deal damage and they have time for it. And that itself can just make your 2v2 experience just way worse. So right now, I kind of stopped playing 2v2. Normally, I am like one of the only YouTubers that actually make content about 2v2 and like tier lists about 2v2 like precisely, and I keep up tier lists like very, very up to date. But this time around, I'm just not playing it. Or if I'm playing it, it's only for capping, but I often just not play it for long. And I would be then playing 2v2 DPS, like double DPS, just to be able to counter disc priests. There's only one way to stop a disc priest is by actually killing it faster than they can heal, and also stop multiple times the like penances, ultimate penitence, CCing him, like using silences, for example, whatever, like interrupts. Um, but that's the only way where you can actually enjoy the game, in my opinion, right now, with disc priest in 2v2. But good thing is in 3v3 it's more fun. I don't like the meta right now, but I liked playing 3v3. It's very challenging, very hard, because like again, if you're not playing like a meta spec, you get blasted most likely. But I do find 3v3 very versatile in comps. Like I see way more comps as well. I think the only thing that is not very versatile are healers, but again, if you're making one mistake, it is over, right? So that's kind of the thing for healers. If you could actually play healer and it has like no downside, you would. But again, they are like the last line of defense. If it fails, well, it is what it is. But anyways, this is kind of the video I want to make for 2v2. Like I'm very tired. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry if I don't have the energy that I had on my previous videos, but like again, it's a very late video. I wanted to make it, but I couldn't. So at least now it's made. At least you know my opinion about 2v2. Hopefully you do also share your opinion about 2v2. If for you disc priest is the problem, or maybe feral druid is a problem for you, but I experienced a lot of comps versus me that is playing disc priest. For example, I saw a elemental shaman disc priest comp. I saw a double priest like shadow priest disc priest as well. I saw a boomy disc priest. I saw a frost mage disc priest. Like you see so many disc priest comps that at one point you understand that it doesn't really matter, except if the priest is really bad and you can steal like a round if you're playing 2v2 with your friend, and you can actually like CCing him and you can win this like kind of matches. But I think that kind of relies on yourself also playing priest and your ally to play a very, very meta comp that you can actually deal damage and deal CC enough to win games. So yeah, again, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.